Hi Siddharth, this is Iti.
Hi, the it says Siddharth on the screen name. Could you please change that?
Sorry?
On your screen name, it says Siddharth.
No,
So
it's Iti Sharma only.
I can see. All right, no worries. I'll change it from my end. Okay, thanks.
I hope this is fine now.
It is Atit. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Very good afternoon. Thank you for joining us here today.
Good afternoon to you. Just wanted to point out that I am not Dr. Anil Chopra. I am simple Anil Chopra. I'm not doctor by any chance.
No worries, sir. I'll just rename you to.
No issues. Yeah.
All right, sir. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much, Siddharth. Thank you for inviting us here, and we are looking forward to this session.
Right. The pleasure is all ours, sir. We are being joined by the students so far. I mean, we have 25 students who have joined us, and more would be joining us in the meantime. But
Right.
since, I mean, we are on the clock, and since you have joined us on time, which I'm very thankful about, students, thank you to you two for joining us here, which is going to be a very stimulating session today by Mr. Anil Chopra, who is a director in Bajaj Capital Group of companies, a leading player in financial planning and investment advisory business. Mr. Chopra joined Bajaj Capital Limited in the year 1984 and has been instrumental in expanding the network of Bajaj Capital Limited from 6 to 235 offices and from 60 to 4,000 highly talented human resources during his tenure as the CEO of Bajaj Capital until 2017. Mr. Chopra is also a chartered accountant by profession, and he has been widely quoted in financial and general media on key financial developments in the industry. His contributions are immense. Mr. Chopra is also, again, a certified financial planner. His interest in financial planning is intense and profound. In fact, he's the first ever person from Indian financial services industry to enter the office of FPSB in Denver, USA in the year 1999. And it was his dream to bring the concept and profession of financial planning in India. So without any further delay, I would now hand over the baton to Mr. Anil Chopra. Sir, if you could enlighten our students and attendees who are here on the subject topic, which is behavioral issues in investing.
Thank you so much, Siddharth, and good evening, friends. And I must start by thanking your college authorities and your institute for giving us this opportunity of interacting with you. And I just wanted to clarify one thing in the beginning, that will the students be able to interact through chat, or will they all be, of course, be muted? Of course, yes. Good evening, Subiska. So that would make it a little more interactive if they are able to respond and ask questions through chat. I just wanted to clarify that, Siddharth.
Sir, they can send you messages through chat.
Okay, wonderful. So that would make it much more interesting. So friends, today's topic is behavioral issues in investing. And I'm sure all of you are students of finance, so you have done a lot of studies on this topic, which is a recent topic. And in fact, even Nobel Prizes were given, a few years ago to two economists who have done path-breaking research, in this area of behavioral issues in investing. But we will try and understand this new concept with the help of some examples, some very easy to understand, simple day-to-day situations, so that we are all prepared to be demonstrating better behavior when it comes to our own investing. Very soon we'll be investing our own hard-earned money, and maybe some of us become professionals in advising others on how to invest their money. So then also this information, this session would be very handy, very useful if we know what are the behavioral issues in investing. So friends, let me begin our discussions by asking all of you this very simple question, that when we invest our money, what are we expecting? Answer is just one word. Just type it out and let me know. Why do we invest? What are we expecting? Reet Ahuja is saying profit, but Archit Ashwa is given the perfect answer, which is returns. Yes, Rishi, perfect, returns. So that's the answer. So we got the answer. So we all invest because we want returns, right? But now let us understand this, that if markets give returns, do we actually get it? Simply speaking, when in a normal parlance, we say that if I give you 100 rupees, then you will say, I have received 100 rupees, right? Similarly, if I give you a pen, you will say, yes, I have received a pen. But does that also hold true when it comes to markets? If markets have given X amount of returns, have investors also actually received it? That is something which we need to understand. Markets over a long term in India, as most of you know, currently the Sensex level is, hovering around 54, 55,000, and it started in 1979. The Sensex was launched in India in 1979 with 100. That 100 has become 55,000 in 42 years. Just in 42 years, 100 has become 55,000, which means money has grown 550 times. That is the kind of return which the markets have given. But whether the investors have actually received that returns or not, and if they haven't, then why haven't they received these returns? Which is simply, like I told you an example, if I give you 100 rupees, you have to get 100 rupees and not 101 or 99. But that's not true for markets. And obviously, the main reason for why investors do not get the returns which markets give is behavior. So friends, that is the number one reason. Now, if I were to ask you that what are the various factors which govern the returns? Markets have been giving decent returns, 14%, 15%, 18%. In some years, they give even higher also. What are the various factors which contribute to markets giving returns? Then what are your answers? What are the various factors which contribute to markets giving decent returns? Let me get some answers. Company performance, wonderful, Archit. Yes. Macroeconomy, great answer. Yes, macroeconomy doing well, market should give higher returns. What else comes to your mind? These are two great answers: company performance and economic environment. Yes, Shoaib Bagri. Yes, economic environment, excellent. People investing, okay. Sales of stock, no, that's not a great answer. Political conditions, yes, yes, Aman Ali Khan. Political conditions, if they are conducive, if the government in power is thinking in the interest of the corporate world, then obviously market should give decent returns. So that's a good answer. Rishi, just investing is not an answer which I will take for correct. Natural environment also is something slightly vague. I am asking you, what are the various factors which will contribute to the returns? Confidence in an industry, yes, Mihir, that's a good answer. Confidence in an industry is a great factor. For example, if we have confidence in pharma, because of this pandemic, going forward, pharma companies will make big profits. So that is what will contribute to the returns. Past performance, okay. Past performance also is correct. Currency value, right? Yes, that also is a good answer. Technological advancement. Okay, let me give you some more clues. Then I think your mind will go in very perfect direction. What about interest rates in the economy? You think that plays a important role in corporate world giving good returns? Yes or no? How the central bank is managing the interest rates? Yes. So Archit is saying yes. Rishi is saying yes. So you are agreeing. How about managing inflation? If inflation is low in the country or in the economy, reduction in corporate tax. Yes, Kavya Chopra. Excellent answer. Excellent answer. Reduction in corporate tax will also lead to markets giving good returns. So these are all great answers. Let me just quickly assimilate all these answers. Good political environment, good economic environment, right? Good governance at the government level, low taxation structures, and conducive policies, conducive industrial policies. Then also, low inflation rate, low interest rates, good credit policy, banks coming forward to lend credit. All these factors contribute to returns being generated by the markets. But all these are good answers. There is a difference between good answer and correct answer, right? All these answers which you wrote and I also mentioned, they are all good answers because the correct answer is different. Friends, the correct answer is when we will get the returns from the market. Of course, it will depend upon all these factors, but number one factor which governs whether we'll get the returns from the market or not is our behavior. Yes, Aman Ali Khan got me there, is our behavior. Our behavior, investors' behavior is number one factor whether you will make money from your investments or not. That is the most interesting part. Because generally, we are highly educated, we are smart people, right? We manage our lives very well, and we take very rational decisions generally in life. But when it comes to investing, somehow we become erratic. Somehow, we become a little overconfident. Somehow we end up taking irrational decisions. And that's not only, between me and you, or only in Delhi or India. This is global. This is worldwide, because investors' mind work in the same direction, whether they live in US, or if they live in Canada, or they live in Noida, or they live in Bangalore, right? So investors' behavior or psychology, how their mind reacts to certain situation, is number one reason why some people make more money from the markets than the others, whereas markets are giving the similar returns. So remember, with what I started the conversation, is that if markets are giving, let us say, 20% return, some investors are getting only 5%, some are getting only 15%, some are getting 25%, some are getting minus. So what is that number one thing which is the difference between markets giving return and investors not getting it? Is the behavior. So that is the importance of today's topic, right, friends? And now we will get little deep into that what are these different behavioral aspects which actually either deflate or inflate the return that we try to get from the markets. And all of you answered that question correctly, that why do we invest? Because we want returns. We want returns, but we end up taking wrong decisions under influence of our erratic behavior. So friends, now let me create a scenario that supposing you invest 10,000 rupees in any stock, right? And within 3 months, it becomes 12,000 rupees. So what is the emotion that you will experience? Can I get some answers? 10,000 has become 12,000. Say in 3 months, in 1 month, bullish. Okay, Archit, you will become bullish. What else? What other emotion you will get inside your body? You invested 10,000, you're doing 12,000. Happy, yes, Rishi. Yes, a layman would feel happy. Yes, Amana, that's the correct answer. You'll feel happy and pride, right? You will feel happy and pride. Absolutely correct answer. That's the answer which I was looking for. 10,000 will become 12,000. You will become happy. But my question is, how much happy? Can you explain how much happy? This much happy or this much happy? 1 kilo happy or 5 gram happy or 2 kilometer happy? There is no measurement, right? I'm sure you'll agree that there is no measurement of how you can calculate that how much happiness comes into our mind when we make good returns from our investments. So that is something which we have to remember. Yes, we get happy when our investments become profitable, when their values go up, but how much happy, that we don't know. We have not been able to find any system of measuring the happiness. Now, just reverse the situation. Let us say you invest 10,000 rupees and after 3 months it becomes 8,000 rupees. Then what is the emotion you will get? Under what? Yes, gloom, loss. Yes, Reed. Sad. Yes, sad is the correct thing. Panic. Yes, Rishi. Panic, sad, gloom. All these are good answers. So we will feel sad about it. We'll get the pain. We'll feel a pain. Oh, my 10,000 rupees, I had saved it with so much of effort, from my pocket money, and thinking that I'll do something out of it. It's only 8,000 rupees, it's my hard-earned money. And this 10,000, 8,000 is only an example. It could be 1 lakh rupees and 80,000. It could be 10 lakh rupees and 8 lakhs rupees, right? It could be a hard-earned retirement money and then going down suddenly in 2-3 months. So just think from that direction that you will become sad if the investment value comes down. Again, my question is, how much sad you will become? How much demotivated? Kashish Jain has given perfect answers, sad and demotivated. But how much sad? How much demotivated? Can you tell me? This much sad? 5 millimeter, half kilo sad? No, again, there is no measurement. But here, now on this aspect, a lot of scientists did huge amount of research. Huge amount of research was done and neurocells were examined, that when 10,000 becomes 12,000, how neurocells in your brain react. They become happy, you start dancing, you start feeling, oh, I'm successful, oh, I'm making money. You feel good, your confidence level goes up. And when you lose money, then suddenly you become gloomy, you become depressed, you feel pain, you feel a pain that as if, some blood has been taken out of your body, you feel pain. So scientists came to this conclusion that intensity of making 20% profit is 50% of intensity of losing 20% money. Are you getting the point? That happiness is there and sadness is also there, but sadness intensity is 2 times higher than the intensity of happiness. This has been proven scientifically, biologically, which means that when you make money, you feel happy. But when you lose money, you feel more sad in terms of intensity. If these were measurable, then the pain of losing money is 2 times more intense than the joy of making money. Do you agree with me on this point? First of all, let me get some responses. Archit is saying yes. Yes, somebody is saying depending upon how much loss is, but here what I have said is the loss is same. Profit and loss are same. 20%. Let us say 1 lakh becoming 1,20,000 or 1 lakh becoming 80,000. So that's exactly the same. The percentage of profit and loss we are in this example we are treating same. But this thing you have to remember, friends, that when you will start investing, if you will make profit, of course, you will feel happy about it. But if you lose money, you will feel more sad. And if you become an advisor, if you become a financial doctor, like I'm a certified financial planner, and I would recommend all of you to consider becoming a certified financial planner so that not only you can invest your own money wisely, you can also guide your clients. So you will remember this, that I am investing this client's money. He is a retired person. If he earns money, of course, he'll feel good about it. But if he loses money, he will feel very bad about it. Very bad, not just bad. Okay. So this behavioral aspect will always keep you in guard in terms of taking investment decisions. So this is something which we have to remember for the rest of our life, that losing money is more painful than making money. Okay. So this is one thing. Now let me take it forward. So I already told you that there are various factors which contribute to the returns from the market, but number one reason why people do not actually get what the market is giving is their behavior. Now, what are the 2 important traits of behavior which become a barricade or which become kind of a stoppage between our making money and markets giving us? There are 2 very specific behaviors which actually are very bad. What are those 2 behaviors? They are known to everybody. Even small child knows them. Greed and fear. Yes, Rishi. So I'm sure you all know this because you are students of finance. So greed and fear. These are the 2 worst enemies in terms of behavior. Because when we are clouded by these 2, either greed or fear or a combination of the 2, then we end up making wrong decisions. Okay, so let me just try and explain this. Now, your students of finance, your father may be a doctor or a professor, or an engineer. Maybe, you give him advice that, Dad, why don't you invest in this, XYZ? I have studied this. This will make, good money. And supposing he invests on your advice or on your tip or on your recommendation, he invests 1 lakh rupees, your dad, and it becomes, say, 1,20,000 in 3 months. Then how will you feel? You will feel very proud of yourself, as if you are a very smart person. So that is another trait, that when we make money, we give entire credit to ourselves. Overconfident that, yes, I know it. I am a student of finance. I know how to read balance sheets. I know how to read economy. I know what are the factors which are going, in our favor. I know that pandemic is finishing now. Now markets will open up. Now companies will make profit. And when actually your share price or investment value goes up, you give entire credit to yourself. But when the opposite happens, when 1 lakh rupees becomes 80,000, then you never say, oh, I made a mistake. Then you always find faults in the system. Oh, government has done this, Modi ji, Yogi ji, this, that minister, this minister, that policy, this GST, international, global, China has done that, US has done this policy. And then we always find faults outside us. So this is a common behavior exhibited globally by all investors, small and big. So please remember, right, that when you make money, don't try and give credit to yourself. Give credit to all those factors which we mentioned. You only answered, conducive environment, low inflation, fiscal deficit under control, etc., etc. And when you lose money, then instead of blaming the system or blaming the advisor, try and analyze the real reasons. So that is where we have to think of the correct behavior, a demonstration. So now let me try and explain this with the help of an example. So I want to share with you an example, which is, you may feel that it is like story, but actually it's not a story. It is a Harvard case study also. It is actual numbers, which I'm going to share with you. And once you will understand, this particular example, which I'm going to share with you in next 5-7 minutes, then this behavioral issues in investing, and particularly the role of greed and fear, will become absolutely clear to you. So here, if I may request my colleague Iti, you are there?
Hi, sir. Yes, I'm
Yes,
here.
Iti, if you can project,
Sure, sir.
share
Sure,
screen
sir.
the first slide, please. The first
Sure.
slide only.
Sure, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope, sir, it's visible.
Yes, it is very much visible. Thank you. So friends, here you can see, a graph or a simple chart. And so below you can see April, June, September, December, March. So it is the story of a particular economy or a Sensex or a company or a share, whatever you may, deem fit, you can think of that over a 1-year period, right? So from April to March, so I have plotted quarterly changes in the value of an investment. So you can see that April it was 20,000, June 25,000, September 35,000, December 26,000, and March 36,000. So this looks like a normal graph of any company's share, which, or any economy or any Sensex or any country that you can think of, right? So do you agree with me that this looks like a normal graph of any company's share prices, or any Sensex or any indices? Right. Okay. So if I were to ask you that if somebody invested in April and exited in March, what kind of profit you think that person will make? It's an arithmetic question, which I'm sure you will quickly do it because you are very smart boys and girls. If somebody enters in this stock in April, waits for 1 year, and so what percentage of profit, Aman Ali Khan, not the amount, percentage, that's my question, percentage. 80%, yes. Archit Asawa, yes, Rishi, all of you are so smart. I knew it, that you will do it quickly without even using calculator. So now what do you think? This 80% return over 1 year, how is it? You think it's good or bad or not very good or normal? What do you think is this 80% return in 1 year? From 20,000 to 36,000. Very good. Yes, Archit. Good, sir. Very good. Yes. Kashish is just saying good. It's not just good. 80% is excellent, actually. Nobody has said excellent. You're just saying good or very good. 80% is huge in 1 year. Do you agree with me that 80% return in 1 year is not normal? It is very good, very, very good. It is excellent. Substantial. Yes, yes, Aman Ali Khan, substantial. So now this graph is in front of you, right? And this is actually not just an example. This is a true story of a particular investment which happened in US, and this study was done by behavioral scientists, those who are doing research in this area. So now the general impression would be that those who invested in this particular company or stock or country or economy, whatever you may call it, would have made good amount of money. If not 80%, then maybe 60-65%. What do you think? What percentage of investors in this company would have made 80% profit? What comes to your mind? You think most of the investors in this stock would have made profit? Yes or no? Generally speaking. Swapnil is saying 20%, Archit is saying no, Rishi is saying no. 20,000 has become 36,000 and you are still saying no? Generally, yes. Yes, Aman Ali Khan, that's the correct answer, because all of you are trying to think opposite. Because I am asking you these questions, so you are thinking there must be some catch. But don't think of the catch. Think of the general situation. General situation, you show this graph to anybody, they will say, oh, wow, this is great stock. A lot of people would have made a lot of money, right? 20,000 becoming 36,000 just in 1 year. That is the normal reaction. But because you are students, you are thinking, into it that something is there. Okay, so now let me tell you, friends, that when the study was done, in this same stock, more than 90% investors lost money. Not only they didn't make money, not only that instead of 80%, they made 60% or 50 or 40 or 30 or 20 or 10. More than 90% investors in this particular company or stock or mutual fund scheme or Sensex or whatever you may call it, economy, they lost money. They lost money. Can you believe it? Now, let me just show you. Just show is the second slide, please. Yes, Ansh, you got the correct answer. Yes. Yes, Aman Ali Khan, you got the correct answer. So here you see, this is the true story now, that a share price started going up from 20,000, it went up to 25,000. Then you can see suddenly it is rising in the months of July and August. If you see June, July, August. So it's rising 28, 20, 30, 31. Oh, people are thinking, oh, wow, media is full of it. All television channels are saying, great stock, this will touch 100,000 rupees. All advisors, all experts, market experts, newspapers, this, that, and herd mentality. And people feel, oh, he is becoming rich. He bought it at 24,000, now it's 32,000. I may be left behind. This is the behavior which people exhibit. So most people entered in this stock in the last few days of September, when the price was going up from 30,000 to 35,000. If 100 investors invested in this stock, 90 investors invested at that point of time, because till then they were waiting. Okay, maybe this price will come down, maybe this price will come down. But when everyone was talking about it, all media channels, all television channels, all big so-called investment pundits, then they enter. So what is the emotion which is working here in this last few days of September? Which emotion is working there? I'm sure you all know it, right? Yes, greed. And then for some reason, maybe Corona, pandemic, we don't know what, price started coming down. So from 35,000 to 34, 32, 30, 29, 28, people start getting panic. Oh, I borrowed from my mom to invest in this. What will I tell her? Money is going down. I have encashed my Provident Fund. I have used all my savings. Oh, it's going down. People get panic. So last week of December or before that, those 90% people, they chickened out, they sold out. They thought, oh, let's cut our losses. Let's not, lose all our entire money, right? So this is an actual story. So 90% people sold their stocks before it touched 26,000 in the last 3 weeks of December. So that is at that point, which is the emotion working? I'm sure you all know this, the other emotion that we talked about, the fear. And then finally, when it went up, there were not many investors which were left in this scheme, only maybe 5-10% investors. Who are those investors? Those investors are long-term investors, disciplined investors, investors following financial principles, investors not getting gripped by these so-called behavioral issues of greed and fear. 90% of investors out there in the system, in the economy, in the country, in and around us are actually, impacted by these behavioral issues. So that is the importance of, and then they blame, media or, these experts that, these people make their own money. They try and pass the blame on to others that because of some systemic failure, we are losing money, and not because we earlier had greed and now we are having fear. So is this point now very well understood, that this is a true story? The stock has given 80% return in 1 year, but with what I started, if the stock is giving you 80% returns, then you should get 80% return, but you're not getting it. 90% are not even not getting, but they are losing money. They're losing 10%, 15%, 20%, 30% of their investments, and then they blame the market that there is so much insider trading. We don't know what is happening. So much manipulation, this, that. We come up with 1,000 explanations, but we forget to identify the real reason, which is the behavioral issues in investing. Right, friends? So thanks. So Iti, you can stop share the screen now. I just wanted to use those 2 slides just to clarify these 2 biggest factors which play havoc in our decision-making process. We are otherwise very smart people. We are very rational. We are very intelligent. But when it comes to investment, somehow we are not able to think properly. But I'm sure as students of finance, you understand these matters. You will be able to control your emotions, and then you can be not only a successful investor yourself, but also you can guide others to how to take care of these emotions. Now, my next question is again a slightly interesting one. Out of the 2, greed and fear, which is more powerful emotion? What do you think? Which is more powerful, greed or fear? Greed. Rishi is saying fear. Reet is saying, so your student fraternity is divided between greed and fear. Ansh is saying fear. Aman is saying fear. I am not surprised that some of you feel it is greed and some of you feel it is fear. Subiska is saying it is fear. This will actually tell you about your own character. If you will do some deep inside thinking that why I gave that answer, why immediately I gave greed, why immediately I said fear. Whereas if you think about it, then probably some more clarity would emerge. If you think through it, what is greed, what is fear? So now let me try, and both are on the same level, sir. Rishi is saying we feel more bad when we lose money, thus fear. Ansh is giving his logical answer. Yeah, I like that explanation. Ansh is trying to explain that, I told you that pain is more of losing money than the joy of gaining money. So he's using same logic here, and he's trying to say that fear is a more intense emotion, right? And Rishi is saying both are on the same level. He's taking the middle path approach. He's trying to chicken out. He's not ready to give any answer. He says, dono same hai. Okay, interesting. Okay, but now let me tell you that which is, at least one of them is more intense than the other. And this would be clear with the help of a small story. Okay, and this story is like, like what you used to hear from your grandmas, or you must have read in school, maybe when you were 8 years or 5 years old. That's that kind of a story. But it tells the real, logic behind it, that which emotion is more powerful, and it will help you in your life, while taking decisions. So the story goes like this: that there was a kingdom, Purane Zamane ki kingdom, and in that kingdom, the king realized, and his people came and told that there is something happening in our society. The pickpocketing is going up. A lot of pickpocketing incidents are reported, to the police. So in markets, in crowded places, there are some small-time thieves, and they are pocketing, they are picking the pockets. So king actually got very annoyed. He felt insulted that in his kingdom, pickpocketing is going up. So he thought of teaching them a lesson by instilling fear in them. So he announced, he said, anyone caught picking a pocket, right? Anyone caught by my police, he or she would be stoned to death. It's a kingdom old story, so you have to believe me, whatever I tell you. He or she will be stoned to death in an open public ground. Let us say, in a choke or some place where a lot of people can come and see. So what he was trying to do, he was trying to discipline his people by telling them not to resort to pickpocketing, by instilling fear in them that if they are caught doing that, they will be stoned to death, which is so very painful, right? So then what happened, that in a period of 1 month, 2 pickpockets were still caught. Despite giving this warning, still they were caught by police. So now, because the king had announced that they will be stoned to death as a punishment, so he said, okay, so and so date, so and so time, these 2 people will be stoned to death. And a lot of public gathered there. 1,000 people, gathered there just to see, because this was happening for the first time. And they wanted to see, how these people are being punished. So actually, they saw it, 1,000 people together, and after that punishment was over, they were stoned to death, etc. When they dispersed, they found that 10 more pockets had been picked because there were 1,000 people there. So that tells you which emotion is more intense. What is your answer now? Greed or fear? Greed. Yes, friends, greed. Actually, greed is more powerful. So with this story, we're trying to tell you the reality of life. Yes, there was an opportunity, greed. So in that example also, you saw that first greed came into action and the prices were going up and up and up. So greed always is the bigger. Of course, we have to control both the emotions, greed as well as fear. But more people lose money due to greed than due to fear. So this, just keep in mind that both the emotions are wrong. These are behavioral issues in investing. I want to remind you, what is the topic today? Let's not deviate from the topic. The topic today is behavioral issues in investing globally. And whatever I'm sharing with you in very simple language, these are the findings globally, that fear and greed are the biggest enemies. And between the two, greed is a bigger animal to fight with. Right, friends? So now, taking this forward, I would like to take another example, is that just I'm creating a scenario. Supposing you invest 10,000 rupees in stock A, right? 10,000 rupees in stock A and 10,000 rupees in stock B. So which means you have invested 20,000 rupees, right? And now, say after 3 months, you look at your portfolio again, how is it doing? So then you find that stock A, the 10,000 has become 12,000 rupees. So you feel happy. You remember, you feel happy, but not so much, but you feel happy. And the other 10,000 stock B has for some reason become 8,000. So there, of course, you feel little sad. But on the whole, because there is happiness also, there is sadness also, your 20,000 is still 20,000 after 3 months, right? So this is the situation. So 10,000 has become 12, stock A, stock B, 10,000 has become 8,000, total is still 20,000. Now, supposing you need 5,000 rupees for some reason, there is some emergency, you want to pay your fees or whatever, you need 5,000 rupees. And this is the only money you have, stock A and stock B. So now the question is, which stock you will sell to get your 5,000 rupees and why? That's my question to you. Can I get some answers? Stock B, Rishi is saying, very quick to answer. How smart, stock B. Reet is saying stock A. So we got 2 people answering 2 different behavioral issues. Stock B. Tanishka Dokwal is saying stock B. Oh, Shrey is saying, Shrey is giving logic. Shrey is very logical. He doesn't like to just say A or B. He also wants to explain why A, why B. I like that. Okay, we have made profits on it and expect no more returns on it. Shrey is saying, okay, we have made profit, so now let's book our profit, because profit is that which is in our pocket. So that's why he's saying we should do A. Archit is saying, no, I don't agree with Shrey Bagri. I want B. We want to reduce our exposure in B. Rishi is saying, you have already found that investment in B is bad and therefore don't want to incur further loss. Interesting logics. You are so smart people. Subiska is saying, stock B. When people are fearing, we should show greed since demand will increase. That's a very interesting logic. Okay, but you have noted that within all of you, you are all smart students. You are very bright students, but you don't have the same answers because the different behaviors are coming into play. Your minds are working in different directions. So friends, let me tell you, I don't want to discourage you. Please, I don't want to offend you. Okay, I respect all of you. You are great people. I love you all. Okay, but I have to tell you that all your answers are wrong. I'm sorry to say that. The reasoning is wrong. The logic is wrong. This is a behavioral issue, which most of us have. Why? Because you're looking at the past track record that A has made profit. Okay, A has made profit. Now it will not make any more profit. Let us sell A. Or B is made loss, so we should cut our loss. You're only looking at what the stocks have done prior to today, which is a very, very wrong behavior. I also get answers, because I do the similar sessions with so many places. I've done it, across the country and in different parts of the world also. So some people say 50% A, 50% B. They think, oh, that's the best solution. You want 5,000 rupees, sell 2,500 rupees A stock, 2,500 rupees B stock. But that also is not the correct answer. So friends, what is the correct answer? What is the rational behavior? What should we do? How to find which stocks to sell? Okay, so past track record, zero meaning. Now you have to see in future which shares prospects are better and which shares prospects are not so good. Whichever is not so good, that stock you have to sell. As simple as that. Nothing to do with whether A has made profit or B has made loss or how much, this, that, nothing doing. Now, just to explain to you, for example, so A has become from 10 to 12, that doesn't matter. B has become 10 to 8, that also doesn't matter. We have to see future. Let us say that A is, let us say, a hotel company or an airline company, and we are in the middle of pandemic, and we feel that third wave will also come. So hotel industry or pandemic or whatever, airline industry, they will not do well, right? Their business is down. So their prospects are low. Previously, they made profit for different reasons. And similarly, B stock, let us say it is a pharma company, which has just, developed some vaccine, which has been accepted today by WHO. They will make now huge profit in the coming months. So always we have to take decision looking at the future prospects of A or B or any other company, and never be guided by what has happened in the past. Do you agree with this logic? That we should sell either A or B depending upon whose future is less bright than the other. Yes. Thank you, Tanishka. Thank you, Reed. Thank you, Subiska. Thank you, Kashish Jain. Thank you. So friends, these are the simple behavioral mistakes that we do on a day in, day out basis. We look at the past track record. That has no meaning. No meaning. Right? If today, if in company A, some fire has broke out and they may be making huge profits, but now today some accident has happened, some gas leak has happened. Now we know that in going forward, their profits will go down and they will not do so well. Whereas B company has got some big order, let us say, some big export order, so they will do well. So these are the factors which we have to keep in mind while selecting which share to buy and which share to sell. So I just try and explain to you that how we ourselves get impacted by our own thinking, methodology or behavior. So friend, these are, some of the simple things, but now taking it forward, that there is this concept of sudden money syndrome, which is that when people become rich, then their thinking, their psychology changes. Do you know that money affects the thinking process, right? So, okay, so it's already 4:42. I was told I have to do it in 40 minutes. So I was just thinking whether I have done justice to my time or not. Siddharth?
Sorry, you can continue. You can continue, sir.
Okay. So I have quite a few things to share, but okay, let me just try and do one more thing, friends. Okay, so I'm just trying to explain, these behavioral issues. So when it comes to taking general decisions in our life, there we think very rational. But when it comes to investing, somehow we become, clouded by others. So I'll give you another example. For example, these days, of course, due to Corona, malls and all are closed. But of course, now they are open. But earlier, we used to go to mall quite often. So like you go to a mall, and as soon as you enter, say, a garment store, and you see a very nice shirt, being displayed there, and you get attracted, or girls get attracted by a nice top, which is, in Marks and Spencer or Zara or wherever you go, right? For boys, if you go to Alan Solly or Tommy Hilfiger, wherever you like nice shirt, and you go, and what's the first instinct is you want to see the price tag, right? Isn't it? You go and see price tag. Okay, you see 2,000 rupees. You say 2,000 rupees. Yeah, it's a nice shirt. 2,000 rupees, a little expensive. So this happens. So you say, okay, leave it. It's a bit expensive. Same with the girls also. You like some top, but they look at the price tag of 2,000 rupees. No, little expensive. Then maybe next Sunday again you go back to the same mall, and that same shirt is still there, which is stuck to your mind because you found it attractive. And then you say, buy two, get one free. Same shirt. And because you liked it, now what will you do? Or if it says 20% discount, now for sure you will buy it, because that's the rational behavior. Because you liked it, you found it little expensive. Now the same thing, same shirt or same top, which was 2,000 rupees, is now available, say, for 1,500 rupees. So the general inclination is, let's quickly take it, lest that this also disappears. So that's a very rational behavior. But we do not display the same behavior when it comes to investing in the stock market. When the prices of a company are going down, then we feel, oh, no, this may further go down and I might lose my money. So their similar psychology doesn't work, that now the price is going down. It was earlier, 100, it is now 75 or 68. Now it is a good time to buy. So we don't just take decisions that way. We just get clouded in the other way around, when the prices are going up. And at that time we get crowded by the concept of greed, and then we end up buying at a very high price from where the returns generation becomes very difficult. So this is another example that in a normal day-to-day scenario, we take very good decisions, very rational decisions. But when it comes to investing, somehow our thinking becomes, irrational. And finally, I'll just give you one more example. Of course, there are quite a few others, but because the time is less. So one more example of how, our decision-making process is impacted adversely due to our own behavior is that, for example, let us say your mom tells you, ki beta jaake zara seb le aao. I'm sure all of you understand Hindi. Jaake go and get some apples from the market, right? So you go with your friend and you go to the nearby market and you say, apple kaise diya bhaiya? He says 200 rupees a kilo. So, and your mother has told you to buy 2 kilos of apples, right? And then your friend tells, oh yeah, in the next market, just the next market, I bought this morning 150 rupees a kilo. Same apple, exactly same. So now what will you do? Can I get some responses? What will you do? If your friend tells same apples, next building, 150 rupees. What will you do? Go to the other market, Tanishka? Absolutely right. That's the rational behavior, isn't it? That's the correct behavior. I'm saving 100 rupees. If you want to buy 2 kilos, go to the other market. So I'll go to the other market and then buy 2 kgs apples, come back happy, and tell your mother also that, mother, first I went to this market, there the guy was saying 200 rupees kilo. But my friend told me next market 150, I went there, just 50 yards and I saved 100 rupees. Good thing. Mother will be happy that the son or daughter is becoming very intelligent and responsible now. But cut to another example. Say you are with your friend, you have gone to a mall and you are looking at say Apple iPhone, just for an example, right? So Apple iPhone, so you say 79,600 rupees, right? Apple iPhone, latest model, and your friend tells, yeah, next building, yesterday only I bought it was 79,200 rupees. So what will you do? In 80% cases, this has been proven worldwide. In 80% cases, you will say, yeah, 200-300 rupees, why should I bother? 79,600, 79,200, why should I bother? Yeah, ek hi baat hai. Doesn't matter. So you will end up buying from there only, because this is a bias in our mind, which works in terms of percentage and not absolute amount. Here by walking 50 yards, you would have saved 400 rupees. From 79,600 to 79,200, and you just have to walk 50 yards and you would have saved 400 rupees. In the morning for apples, you walked 50 yards to save 100 rupees and you felt happy about it, because you felt out of 400 rupees, you saved 100 rupees. But do you think, is that a correct way of thinking? 100 rupees is 100 rupees and 400 rupees is 400 rupees. So in the second example also, we should have walked to the other mall and saved 400 rupees. But our thinking process is that this is just a simple example to drive the message. So I think we are through with this, topic or this understanding that how these behavioral issues play very important role and actually end up deciding whether we will make profits from our investments or not. And it is not only making profits from our investment, but even our normal day-to-day decision making process. So friends, I think I would like to conclude it here. Of course, there are more topics also, but because it's already 4:50 and so we just have 10-11 minutes, I have enjoyed interacting with you, and you have been, of course, very quick, very swift in engaging with me and giving me your piece of your mind and your answers. And now I want feedback from you, and if you have any comments, any questions, I would love to answer that.
Right. Thank you, sir. It was a very intriguing, I must say, session, very stimulating. At the same point, we have some questions from the students. Shrey is asking you, how is investing different from trading in terms of psychology? Can one do both at a time without a conflict in our mind? Right. So if you would like to answer that.
Huge difference. See, investing and trading trading has an element of speculation in it, right? Whereas investing has an element of financial goals in it. Investing is serious business. Why do you invest? You invest for your life goals. What are the life goals? Life goals are, planning for your retirement, planning for education of your children, planning for marriage of your children, planning for buying a home, 10, 15, 20. These are all serious financial goals. And most of the investment decisions are taken primarily for these very sacrosanct goals in life. I do other sessions, on like retirement planning, etc., where I talk about that 5 goals are there in everybody's life, right? And those 5 goals are children higher education, children marriage, buying a house, buying a car, and retirement planning. And people have to do investments for these 5 very, very important goals. So there one has to ensure that those emotions like greed and fear, and irrational thinking are kept at abeyance, are kept on one side, and one follows fundamental principles of investing, which is there are 3 or 4 rules one has to remember, and they are very different from trading. Trading is like speculating. Trading like playing cards. Trading is like that you doing it with your risk capital, which you don't mind losing. Maybe 5% of your total capital you may use for trading because you don't mind even if you lose 100% of it. But or you may even end up making profit also. There not so much sentiments are attached. But when it comes to investing, what are the fundamental principles which you need to keep in mind? First of all, diversification, diversification, diversification. So we cannot overemphasize this point. And where and how to diversify it? There are 4 options: debt, equity, gold, and real estate, right? So for investment, these are the 4 options: debt, equity, gold, and real estate. So within these 4, one has to diversify. And then there has to be a next level of diversification. Within debt, it has to be bonds, bank fixed deposits, provident funds, post office schemes, etc. Within equity, it has to be large cap, mid cap, small cap, index, pharma, FMCG, international equity, special situation, etc. Then within gold, it has to be paper gold or physical gold, ornaments or jewelry. And then real estate, it has to be between commercial and residential, right? So that is the level of diversification that one has to go through. And then one has to follow the simple, basic, fundamental principles of 100 minus your age to be invested in equity. Yes, so if your age is, say, 25 years now, then 75% of your savings should be going into equity, 10% in gold, that's another thumb rule, and balance in debt. And as you grow old from 25 to 30 to 35, 40, you go on reducing your exposure to equity and increasing to debt. So these are some of the long-standing, well-established principles of sound investing, right? And then again, for investing, instead of buying, selling stocks, the mutual funds are much better route. And Ansh is asking, which course did you do for becoming a financial planner? So Ansh, I am a certified financial planner, which is CFP, right? And globally, CFP course is there only in about 11 or 12 countries, like US, Canada, Australia, India, Singapore, Hong Kong, South Africa, Germany, France, etc. And in India, in Bajaj Capital, we have our own college called International College of Financial Planning, where we offer, the CFP courses. There are 6 modules, And by clearing those 6 modules one by one, you can do online also. You can become a certified financial planner, which includes retirement planning, succession planning, investment planning, how to construct a financial plan, how to review it, how to implement it. All these is a part, including tax planning.
So we also have a couple of more questions for you. Rishi is asking, sir, how much diversification is too much diversification?
Right. So diversification, there are certain thumb rules which one needs to keep in mind. So, for example, one I told you that between debt, equity, gold, and real estate, that is one level of diversification. And the simple thumb rules to remember is 100 minus your A should be equity. So that is one. But then within equity, again, there are rules. So if you are investing 100 rupees, 40% should be in large cap or blue chip stocks, which is the top 100 companies of our country. So I'm sure you know what are those top 100 companies like State Bank of India, Infosys, TCS, Hindustan Lever, Maruti, NTPC, etc. And 20% should be in the next 150 companies, which are known as mid cap stocks. So 40 in large cap, 20 in mid cap, then 20 in flexi cap, which also includes mid cap, small cap, and flexi cap. And the last 20% is any theme. That theme can be international equity, it can be FMCG, it can be pharma, it can be IT. So this is the level of diversification, and no further diversification is required. First level, debt, equity, gold, real estate. Second level, within equity, large cap, mid caps, flexi cap, and theme. That's it.
Right. Shrey has another question for you, sir. He's asking, is investing going to get automated in the near future?
Yes, it has been automated to a large extent. You know, some algo investing is in vogue, is in fashion these days. You know, where some online platforms are there, where there are some baskets. So ready-made baskets are there. You study those baskets. If that suits your kind of requirement, then you can, you know, put your money in that basket, which becomes kind of an automated investing. So you don't have to do stock selection, specific or specific industry selection, etc. So these kind of models are becoming available now, and they are turning out to be very useful for those who do not have time to go through the different companies' balance sheets and study their you know, future prospects, etc. But still they want to participate in the growing market. So for them, you know, this online automated tools are actually very, very handy. But you need to, it's always better to take help of an advisor, like a certified financial planner. So the analogy that we give is that when you fall sick, do you go to a doctor or you go to a chemist? Definitely you go to a doctor, right? Doctor will tell you, prescribe you, then you go to the chemist and buy the right medicine. See, similarly, when it comes to investing, you have to take help of a financial doctor or a certified financial planner, and he or she will guide you to the right platform, to the right mix, to the right combination, and then you follow that.
Right. So we'll take last question for the day. We have a question from an anonymous attendee. He or she is asking, sir, how do we do a fundamental analysis of the company?
Right. So for doing fundamental analysis of a company, friends, it's not easy. First of all, it's not easy that anybody can do it, right? It requires some special skills. Generally, it is done by the research companies, because you need to, for fundamental research, you need to, first of all, be adept at analyzing the financial statements, which everybody can't do, right? So you should be able to read through the financial statements of the company for maybe last few years, then do a comparative analysis with the other peers and other competitors, and then also be very good at ratio analysis, and also be able to have a one-on-one discussion with the promoters of the company to understand their vision and where do they intend to take the company up to. So that only will complete your fundamental, you know, analysis of any company. So it's a gigantic task better left to fund managers, those whose 24/7 job is only this and nothing else. So if you want to do fundamental analysis yourself, you should aim to become a fund manager. And then you will be well equipped, you will be well trained, you know, into all that analytical tools, and then come up with, you know, your recommendations.
Well, thank you, sir. I'll very quickly now like to invite our Dean for Academics, Dr. G.L. Tayal, to please share his vote of thanks. Tayal, sir.
Sure.
Thank you, Siddhant. Can you allow my video feed to be on? My
Sir, I
video
think,
is seeking your permission.
all right, sir, give me just 1 second.
So that I can show my face as well.
Yes,
Absolutely,
indeed.
sir. We would love to.
We would
We would
love to see Dr. Dayal.
Sir,
Yes, yes, sir.
are you able to switch on your camera now, sir?
Yes,
Yes, I
very
think
much.
I
Welcome,
have.
sir.
So thank you so much, Mr. Chopra. It has been really a great pleasure. And one thing which I can say very safely is that the returns in terms of investment that we have made today of about 1 hour has been very great. And we have been very happy. Every student, I think, who has attended must be very happy. And another dimension is that you have talked about the behavioral trait of greed. But even if we have developed greed in this case to listen more to you in future, I think more returns are there in for us.
That's very kind of you to say like that,
Be a
sir.
bad kind of a characteristic to my mind. In terms of knowledge, therefore, the conclusions possibly you might have to revise. In financial terms, of course, there is a problem with the greed. But in terms of the knowledge getting, there won't be any kind of negative returns. And we hope that in future also we'll get that opportunity. But that was what my feeling, and I think that must have been the feeling of the students as well. One very pleasure connection with you could be that when you did your chartered accountancy, probably I must have been associated with the examination system of the Institute of Chartered Accountant, because at that time I was in Delhi University.
Right.
But Associate Professor Grewal was there as the director, and I was associated with there.
Sir, were you associated with Ramjas College by any way?
Yes, I was associated with Ramjas College. Did you do your BCom there?
Sir, you were my teacher.
Oh my, great, great, great.
I must, say my folded namaste to you, because I
Thank
passed
you,
in
thank you.
1975, sir. 73, 74, 75. And you were our teacher, sir, of those years.
Okay, great. So you were...
Mr. N.D. Vora was there. Mr. Nirmal Dev Vora, he had just joined.
Yes,
and,
Vora and me were in the same batch of MCOM.
Yes, and Mr. B.P. Singh, sir, were there, and Dr. Mahesh Chandra.
Yes, B.P. Singh, Dr. Mahesh Chandra was there, then Dr.
Yes, Maheshwari ji. Yes.
So great. I mean, this has been a great moment. And
So I could, the moment I saw your face, I knew that you are my, my teacher, sir. You are my teacher.
Okay, great. So it has been a real pleasure, really, Mr. Chopra, because, and now this is an added pleasure and is a moment of pride for me. When you say before me that you were my student, and that's a fact of history.
Yes, sir.
But two people you will appreciate, two people are happy in life more than anybody. One is the parents, another is the teacher.
Yes.
A situation when the student goes farther than you. So I am happy that you have gone much ahead of me.
No, sir, not in front
It's a
of
very
you.
happy moment for me anyway.
Always a student in front of you, sir.
Thank you.
Right.
Now, the other aspect which out of your lecture, I will only narrate a few aspects. One is that, of course, you have said that anything which was related to the macro level factors which were explained by the student as an explanation for the question of the receipts which are had
Returns from the investments.
Yes.
Yes.
And you said that they were good answers. Certainly they were good answers, but the correct answer you said was the behavior. Now, whereas it is true that behavior is important, no doubt about it, and individual behavior that you have focused on today is important. One thing which I believe is that possibly, this behavior itself is determined by multiplicity of factors. So those factors also, it would be interesting sometime if we can really listen to you about those determinants of this behavior.
Sure, sir.
Because to my mind, behavior is a very broad kind of phenomena. And fear and the greed might be just two aspects of it. There is a question of perception. There is a question of attitude towards risk. There is a question of the stress which goes on because of there is a question of so many things which are going on in personal life, as you said, the example of 5,000 required and so on and so forth. So there could be many more situations which could be affecting, but certainly the greed and fear are two very important traits which you have really narrated today. And a very interesting part is that you have given very many illustrations. Possibly, if you could recollect my days, I used to use the examples in the class.
Sir, inspired from you only.
but the illustrations which you have given, they are very concrete, they are very practical. We used to give mostly the theoretical examples, but the examples which you have given are very practical. And I must say here that I'm again very proud that you have gone much ahead, and that's a moment of happiness for me. Now, the other aspects that you really narrated was this money syndrome and all that, with the example of the mall and all that, that is also a very real story. And I think these are the things which essentially make the understanding very, very interesting. And I think we teachers also learn a lot out of this kind of a delivery. Normally, I have experience of inviting some industry people. Sometimes they only narrate their individual experiences which are not connected with the theoretical aspect, but this is very much connected with the theoretical aspect. So somewhere I believe you must have also been interested in academics all your career, although you have been in the practical world. But definitely the way that you have presented essentially makes me believe that you have been interested in academics as well. And that also is proved by the fact that the questions which essentially were asked, there is about investing, the difference between investing and trading, whether it was the course that you have done, of course, that's a factual thing. Whether it is the question of diversification or a question of automation in investing or a question of fundamental analysis. Very well done, sir. And I must congratulate you now, having known my relationship, a very old relationship with you of about 50 years now.
Yes, sir.
5 decades. So a great congratulations to you. I'm so glad, really. And thank you so much. And as my former student, I can now say that wish you all the best, sir.
Thank you, sir. You have made my day. I'm feeling so happy and elated.
Coming again to ISBF. We'll be so happy to welcome you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody who has attended, because without you, this would have not been a successful kind of a session. And thank you, Siddhant, for organizing and letting me meet one of my brightest older students from Ramjas College. Thank you.
No, sir. I can only say one thing. It's a very small world. Today we have practically seen that happening. A teacher meeting a student who has gone way ahead. In his life.
Way ahead. Yes.
So an absolute pleasure, sir, to be a part of this. And as you rightly pointed out, it wouldn't have been possible without the participants. Who have attended and who have been very interactive and have asked Anil sir so many questions. Anil sir, again, we at ISBF were thinking, since we are inviting you to do a lecture on behavioral issues in investing, what shall we give you as a token of appreciation for doing this, which keeps on giving returns for ever and ever and ever, for as long as there is life. So we decided that I'm just very quickly going to share my screen, and we decided that we would plant trees in your name.
Wow.
So we have done that. And I also very much wanted to thank Ms. Iti. She has been very prompt in whatever queries I have had. So thank you, Ms. Iti, for making this successful session. And sir, I can't thank you enough. You as well, have taken personal interest in delivering the session. And I guess, if I may say that, it was bound to happen that you met Dr. Tyal today. It was somewhere, written to happen.
It was destined. Yes, it was destined.
Yeah.
Destiny, yes.
Right.
That's why I said it's a great return, sir.
Yes, yes. For me, I mean, I think, sir, you have made my day. I'm feeling so happy, and I'm on cloud nine. That if
Great,
a, if
great,
a
great.
teacher is praising me, then there cannot be anything better than that.
Yeah.
So I think that yes, that my life, I have achieved something if my teacher is blessing me. And so I must thank all the students, and I must thank my colleague Iti for coordinating everything, and Siddharth. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity, and look forward to similar other opportunities. You know, we would love to come back and have more interactions whenever you want us. And
Sir,
I wish all of
Thank
you a
you.
great evening.
sir, we'll
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
You too.
Siddharth,
Thank you.
thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you so much, Style sir, for the for the great words, and thank you, Anil sir, for the, as usual, a great webinar. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's
All right.
all
Okay.
happy return.
Sure. Yeah, sir, you are right, sir.
So I'll be in touch with you, Iti, and I'll be in touch with you, sir,
Sure,
and
sure, sure.
certainly we would love to have you back again. It has been an absolutely stimulating lecture today. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Anil sir. Thank you, Tal sir.
Thank you.